My mother taught me plenty of rules about how to be a woman, but she never prepared me for the quiet shift of aging. Not the obvious physical changes, but the silent internal struggles. If you're in your late 50s or early 60s, feeling restless, unsettled, or out of sync, you are not imagining it. We're told that by now, life should finally make sense. But instead, many of us feel a persistent, low-grade unease. And here's the truth. It's not that something is wrong with you. It's simply that the rules you lived by for decades no longer apply. And no one explained what replaces them. I'm Dee Dee Sung, and this is Follow Your Lighthouse. And today, I'm sharing 7 truths about aging my mother never told me. These aren't warnings or regrets. They are hard-earned insights that explain why this phase feels different and how to finally find steadiness and peace. So let's begin with truth number 1. No one is coming to fix it. One of the most disorienting realizations in midlife is this: no one is coming to hand you clarity. For years, we've believed that life will eventually settle, that once the pressure eases, things will just fall into place. And I know because I believe that longer than I'd like to admit, but I've learned that this stage of life doesn't reward waiting. It responds to choice. Not dramatic reinvention, not blowing up your life, but the quiet decision to stop living on standby. From the outside, life may look perfectly functional, responsible, even successful. But inside, something feels muted because you are waiting to feel ready before you move on. And the hard truth is, readiness doesn't arrive first, it follows action. And it's worth asking yourself, gently and honestly, what have I been waiting to feel ready for? Now, before we move on, I want you to notice something. This truth often lands quietly, not as a panic, but as recognition. If you feel tired of waiting, tired of circling the same questions, tired of postponing what they know matters, stay with me, because the next truth explains why your tolerance for certain things has suddenly disappeared and why this is actually a good thing. Now for truth number 2. Your tolerance for nonsense will hit 0. Something else shifts quietly in this season. What you once tolerated begins to feel heavy. What you once explained away now lands in your body. Conversations that go nowhere, obligations that drain you, situations that require you to keep overriding yourself. At first, many women judge this change harshly. They worry they're becoming impatient or difficult or less generous. That self-judgment can be almost automatic, but that's not what's happening. What's changing is your capacity for misalignment. Earlier in life, you could push through discomfort and bounce back. You could absorb friction and just, move on. But now, your body remembers if something doesn't sit right. You feel it immediately. In your sleep, in your mood, in the way your energy drops after certain interactions. And this isn't weakness. Your nervous system has matured. Your inner compass has become more precise. And once you understand that, you stop trying to force yourself back into old patterns just to appear agreeable. Instead, you start listening as a question to notice, not to solve, is what feels harder to tolerate now than it used to? And here's what often surprises women at this point. They think they're becoming less capable, less flexible, while in reality they are becoming more accurate. This isn't failure, that is discernment. And that discernment doesn't just apply to situations, it applies to people too. Which brings us to truth number 3. You will outgrow certain people in your life. One of the quieter shocks of midlife is realizing that some relationships, they no longer fit. People you may have known for decades, friendships that once felt easy, and when that starts to shift, many women assume something has gone wrong. I know I certainly did. I thought it meant I wasn't being loyal enough or patient enough. But I see it clearly now, that outgrowing a relationship doesn't mean you failed it. It usually means you've grown past the version of yourself that relationship was built around. You're not the woman you were at 30. Your questions are different now. Your tolerance is different. You are less interested in surface connections and more interested in richness, depth, and ease. So it makes sense that some dynamics, they no longer feel right. And the discomfort around that comes from the effort. That effort costs you energy you no longer have to spare. And there is a massive sense of relief when you stop forcing closeness where it no longer exists. You don't need to confront anyone. You don't need dramatic exits. Sometimes the most mature move is to let a relationship ease up, to allow distance without drama, to release yourself from the responsibility of maintaining something that no longer fits. And this is often the point where women pause. Not because they disagree, but because something just clicked. And if this conversation is landing for you, if you are feeling that click of recognition, please take a moment to hit the like button, as it helps find other women who need to hear this. You see, you may be realizing that these truths aren't separate. They're connected, and when you stop waiting and you stop tolerating what drains you, relationships naturally change. That doesn't mean something has gone wrong. It means you're orienting toward who you are now, and that orientation continues with the next truth, one that many women initially resist, but eventually find to be the most liberating of all, and that's truth number 4. Invisibility is actually freedom. You see, at some point, many women notice a shift in how they're seen, or more accurately, how they're not seen. The first reaction is often fear, a sense of fading, especially in a culture that equates visibility with value. But with hindsight, I see something else entirely. When attention drops away, so does performance. You stop managing impressions. You stop shaping your life around how it will be perceived. And this can feel disorienting at first, especially if much of your identity was tied to being needed or admired. But over time, something else opens up. There is an unexpected freedom in no longer feeling like you're being watched. Not because you don't matter, but because you no longer need validation to move forward. And this stage invites you to live more privately, more honestly, less on display, and more for truth. You get to choose without explanation. You get to orient your life around what feels right instead of what looks right. And it's worth asking, what might you stop doing if no one was evaluating you anymore? You see, the sense of freedom, well, it can feel unfamiliar at first. Many women mistake it for emptiness or loss, but what's actually happening is a release from feeling like you have to perform. And when performance drops away, your body often has something to say. It starts sending signals to you, ones that we can no longer ignore. Which brings us to the next truth, which is truth number 5. Your body sends invoices for the past. Now, this truth, well, it's less philosophical and impossible to ignore. You see, your body remembers what your mind once minimized. The years of pushing through, the sleep you skipped, the stress you normalized because that's just how life is. You see, eventually the bill comes due. Not as a punishment, but as a request for a different relationship. This is where many women feel frustrated because the old playbook, well, it stops working. You see, more discipline doesn't fix it. More pushing doesn't solve it. Willpower cannot override biology. What helps you now is respect. Listening sooner, resting without guilt, choosing movement that supports you instead of pushing you. Your body isn't asking to be conquered anymore. It's asking to be partnered with. It wants collaboration, not control, care, not correction. And the quiet question underneath it all is, what has my body been trying to tell me that I've been negotiating with instead of hearing? This moment often brings mixed emotions. On one hand, relief because the exhaustion finally makes sense, but also grief, realizing how you drove yourself for so long. And both can be true at the same time. But once you start listening to your body, you realize something else changes too. It becomes very hard to keep saying yes to others when your body is clearly saying no, which leads us directly to the next truth about boundaries. And that's truth number 6. Nice won't save you, boundaries will. Many of us were taught that being agreeable, well, it was a form of good behavior, that saying yes was generous, that keeping the peace was the right thing to do. Those lessons worked until they didn't. And in midlife, being nice without discernment starts to cost you. It costs you your energy. It costs you your clarity. And eventually, it costs you your self-respect. I didn't learn this quickly. But what I know now is this, that every unspoken boundary eventually becomes resentment. Not because you're unkind, but because you're overriding yourself again and again. Boundaries, while they're not confrontational by nature, they are orienting. They help you decide where your energy belongs now and where it doesn't. They protect your capacity. They preserve what matters. They allow you to show up fully where you choose to show up. And here's a helpful question to sit with. Where am I being agreeable when what I really need is to be clear? For many women, this truth feels both empowering and uncomfortable at the same time because clarity changes dynamics, and change, well, it can feel risky, which is why the final truth matters so much. It's the one that makes all the other changes possible. It gives context to the entire journey that we're on, which leads us to truth number 7. You are allowed to be happy. I'll say it again. You are allowed to be happy. And this is one of the hardest truths to name and one of the most liberating. Many women carry a quiet guilt about aging differently than the women who came before them. If ease wasn't modeled for you, if joy wasn't always postponed, if endurance was praised more than fulfillment, then there is often an unspoken belief that choosing happiness now is somehow disloyal. That wanting more ease means you're ungrateful. That wanting contentment means you're asking for way too much. But what I see clearly now is this. Your suffering now doesn't honor the past, but your wholeness changes the future. You are allowed to live well, to choose ease, to feel happy, to feel content without having to earn it through sacrifice. You are allowed to design a life that fits who you are now, not who you were trained to be. And it's worth asking yourself gently, what would change if I stopped believing my happiness had to be earned? Let that sink in. If you recognize yourself in these truths, please know this. That's not a problem to fix. It's just information. Because I believe women don't need to overhaul their lives in midlife. They just need orientation, a way to find their bearings, a way to reconnect with what matters now. And if you're feeling that urge we talked about earlier, the need to find your bearings without blowing up your life, that is exactly what my free 72-hour Compass Reset is designed for. It's a calm, practical guide to help you identify your next right step without any pressure. I've put the link below for you in the description. And if this conversation resonated, be sure to watch this next video. It dives into 5 silent struggles women don't talk about, but should. Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, take care, and I will see you soon.